The Arizona desert doesn't fall asleep at night. It holds its breath. When the sun disappears beyond the mountains, the heat lingers in the sand like a memory that refuses to fade. The air goes still. No insects, no wind. Just miles of open land stretching into darkness, broken only by jagged silhouettes of rock and cactus. Out here, silence isn't peaceful. It's watchful. This is ancient land. Long before highways cut through the desert and cities glowed on the horizon, people lived here who understood something we've since forgotten. Some places are not empty, just because we can't see what lives there. Some places remember. Travel far enough from the lights, and you'll hear the warnings. Don't follow the voices you don't recognize. Don't wander at night. Don't go looking for things buried in the mountains. Because in Arizona, the desert doesn't give up its secrets easily. And it doesn't always let people leave unchanged. Stories surface again and again. Creatures that don't move like animals. Mountains that seem to turn people away. Lights in the sky that don't stay in the sky. And beneath it all, whispers of something hidden under the desert floor. Something never meant to be found. Tonight we're in Arizona, where the land is old, the silence is heavy, and the unexplained has learned how to blend in. And once you hear this information, you may never look at the desert the same way again. Before we go any further, I need to be clear about something. I will not say the name. If you know, you know. Here, on Hexes, Haunts, and Howls, we're calling it the Flesh Pedestrian. This isn't a campfire story meant to entertain. This is something many people refuse to talk about at all. Not because it isn't real, but because speaking about it is believed to invite it closer. So this section is handled with respect, caution, and restraint. The Navajo Nation spans parts of Arizona, New Mexico, and Utah, covering land that is deeply spiritual and protected by tradition. Within these traditions are warnings, not myths, warnings about beings that were once human, or pretend to be human, and learn how to wear something they shouldn't. Modern sightings follow disturbing patterns. People report seeing figures in the distance that look almost right. A person standing too still, too tall, or moving in a way that feels wrong. Limbs bent strangely, heads turned further than they should. The figure watches, but doesn't blink. Others describe shape-shifting behavior. Something first appears as an animal, a coyote, a dog, maybe a deer, only for its movements to betray it. It stands upright for a moment too long. It runs faster than it should. Its eyes reflect light in a way that doesn't belong to any known creature. Then there are other voices. People hear their names being called from the darkness. Sometimes it sounds like a family member, sometimes a friend, sometimes a child crying for help. The voice is familiar, intimate, but the timing is wrong. It always seems to happen when the person is alone, at night, far from help. Witnesses say the worst part isn't what they see, it's the feeling. The sensation of being watched, not observed, but studied. Campers report waking suddenly with the overwhelming certainty that something is standing just outside the reach of the firelight. Drivers on remote roads describe something pacing their vehicles from the desert, keeping up without effort, disappearing the moment headlights turn towards it. And almost everyone says the same thing. Once you notice it, it notices you back. There are rules people follow, rules passed quietly, not written down. Don't respond to voices you can't confirm. Don't follow anything that calls you by name at night. And above all, don't acknowledge it out loud. Because the flesh pedestrian doesn't want to be seen. It wants to be invited. And in Arizona, where the land is old and the nights are long, some doors are better left closed. Arizona, with its wide deserts, deep canyons, and sparse population outside urban areas, has had sporadic reports of a humanoid creature, often called the flesh pedestrian. Witnesses describe it as unnervingly tall and thin, with pale, almost translucent skin. Its movements are slow but deliberate, sometimes described as unnaturally smooth, giving it a gliding appearance in the desert night. Several hikers in the 1990s reported seeing a tall, thin figure near hidden canyons in Superstition Mountains near Phoenix. It reportedly stood upright for minutes before silently disappearing behind a ridge. The witnesses described a sense of watching eyes, though no face details were clear. Drivers along quiet stretches of Route 180 in northern Arizona near Flagstaff report seeing a figure crossing the road at night. Unlike deer or other animals, it moves with unnerving poise, seemingly aware of the witnesses without making a sound. Some claim it disappears into thin air when headlights are shown. In the Sedona wilderness, campers have described strange humanoid tracks leading to and from dry washes that show no signs of animals. In some cases, the footprints appear elongated and misshapen, with no distinguishable toes, adding to the mystery. Most sightings occur at night, usually under the moonlight or near desert trails. The creature seems indifferent to humans, but exudes a sense of menace. People report a chilling presence rather than aggressive behavior. Some local lore suggests it may be linked to ancient desert spirits or unknown desert predators. Could it be a cryptid adaptation to Arizona's desert environment, evolving to be silent and elusive? Some paranormal theorists link flesh pedestrians to other humanoid cryptids in the Southwest, including skinless or pale figures seen in California and New Mexico deserts. Skeptics suggest that desert mirages, sleep deprivation, or even hallucinations caused by heat and isolation might explain some sightings, though repeated independent reports challenge this. Deep in the forests of Arizona, along the jagged edges of the Mogollon Rim, locals tell stories of a creature that prowls the wilderness. They call it the Mogollon Monster, Arizona's very own Bigfoot. Towering over 7 feet tall, covered in dark, matted hair, with broad shoulders and glowing eyes that pierce the night. This elusive figure has become a legend, whispered from one generation to the next. Sightings are rare, but they're persistent. Hikers and hunters recount the unnerving sensation of being watched as they trek through the dense pine forests. One moment, the forest is quiet. The next, there's a snap of a branch just behind them, though no one is there. A guttural howl escapes through the canyons, rising and falling like it's testing the boundaries of wilderness itself. Some encounters are more tangible. Large, unidentifiable footprints pressed into the soft earth, too big for any known animal, appear along trails. Broken tree limbs hang at strange angles, as though something massive has forced its way through. And then there are the smells. Musky, sour, almost like wet fur, mixed with the scent of the forest floor, that linger long after the witnesses have fled. One hunter, traveling alone in the winter of 1985, reported tracking the creature for nearly half a mile along a snow-dusted ridge. He described the footprints as wide, deep, and perfectly formed, unlike anything he'd ever seen. Then he heard the growl, a low, throaty rumble that vibrated through his chest. He looked up, and for a brief second caught the gleam of eyes in the moonlight before the creature vanished into the shadows. Others speak of eerie, nocturnal encounters. Campers tell of hearing rustling in the treetops above their tents, shadows moving just beyond the firelight. Some swear the monster observes them silently for hours, retreating only when they attempt to follow. One couple even claimed their dog, normally fearless, refusing to leave the tent one night, growling at a darkness that didn't belong. The Mogollon Monster seems to prefer the most isolated areas. Arizona's remote forests, untouched canyons, and steel rim edges provide the perfect hunting ground, or perhaps sanctuary, for this enigmatic creature. While sightings are often dismissed as misidentified elk, bears, or even local pranksters, the consistency of these reports across decades have kept the legend alive. Then there are stories of pursuit. Hikers have reported feeling pressure on their backs, as though something massive is moving silently behind them. Some say they hear branches breaking in a rhythmic pattern, almost as if the creature is pacing them, studying their movements. In certain accounts, the howls are more than sounds. They are warnings, communicating a presence that humans were never meant to understand. Folklorists suggest the Mogollon Monster may be a relic of an earlier age, a surviving hominoid, or a spirit of the land itself. Skeptics argue it's a combination of fear, imagination, and the perfect storm of isolation and nightfall. But for those who've walked the Mogollon Rim under the cover of darkness, the line between legend and reality is razor thin. And even when the creature remains unseen, it leaves a mark. Footprints, broken branches, fleeting shadows, a sudden cold breeze, or the hair-raising feeling of eyes upon you. These traces are enough to make even the most confident travelers pause. The Mogollon monster, whether flesh or folklore, continues to haunt the wilderness of Arizona, a silent guardian of the forest, or perhaps a silent predator waiting in the dark. It's the uncertainty that fuels the legend. Is it real, or just a story? Some say the forest itself remembers, carrying the whispers of the Mogollon monster in every rustling pine and canyon echo. And for those brave or unlucky enough to encounter it, the experience is unforgettable. Something watches, something waits, something prowls just beyond the rim. As the sun sets over central Arizona, the jagged peaks of the Superstition Mountains take on an almost otherworldly glow. These rugged cliffs and hidden canyons have long been the subject of local lore, whispered warnings, and chilling disappearances. Among the most infamous tales is that of the Lost Dutchman's Curse, a story that has haunted prospectors, hikers, and adventurers for well over a century. The legend centers on a German immigrant named Jacob Waltz, who is said to have discovered a rich vein of gold somewhere deep within the mountains. Before he died in the late 1800s, he supposedly revealed the secret only vaguely, leaving behind a trail of mystery and danger. Over the years, countless treasure hunters have ventured into the superstitions in search of the Dutchman's gold, many never returning. Disappearances in the area are common enough to have become part of the mountain's eerie reputation. Hikers and explorers speak of sudden disorientation, getting lost despite maps and compasses, or even vanishing entirely without a trace. Some have returned, shaken, claiming they were turned around by paths that seemed to shift beneath their feet, as if the mountains themselves were alive and guiding or warning them. Then there are the strange lights. Witnesses report glowing orbs moving along cliffs at night, darting through the canyons, or hovering silently over the ridges. Some say the lights appear just before sudden storms, flashes of lightning without clouds, or chilling drops in temperature. Locals claim these phenomena are more than natural occurrences. They are warnings, a way for the land, or perhaps the spirit of the lost Dutchman, to keep intruders at bay. Stories of sudden, violent storms are also common. A clear morning can turn into a torrential downpour in minutes, with winds that howl through the canyons like voices from another world. Treasure hunters have spoken of torrential rains and hailstorms appearing only over certain ridges, seemingly following them, as if the mountains themselves are defending their secrets. The curse, as it's told, is not just about gold. It's about respect, or the lack thereof, for the land. Those who seek wealth with greed in their hearts, who ignore the warnings etched into the landscape in subtle and terrifying ways, are often the ones who disappear. Others claim they see figures watching them from the ridges, shadowy outlines that vanish when approached, or hear whispers carried in the wind, guiding them back to safety or driving them further into peril. Some theorists argue there's a natural explanation. Treacherous terrain, sudden shifts in weather, and human error. But the consistency of stories stretching across generations suggests something more. The superstitious mountains seem to have a consciousness of their own, a force that punishes the unprepared, the arrogant, or the unlucky. One hiker, recounting a near-death experience, described approaching a ridge where a sudden fog descended, so thick he couldn't even see his own hands. The wind carried the sound of distant laughter, high-pitched and eerie, echoing across the rocks. He claims he felt hands, or something like hands, brush against his shoulders, though he was alone. By some miracle, he found his way back, shaken, but alive, forever convinced the mountains had warned him. Whether the lost Dutchman's curse is real or merely legend, the mountains themselves command respect. Their jagged peaks, sudden storms, strange lights, and tales of the missing continue to captivate and terrify. The Superstition Mountains are more than a range of stone. They are a living, breathing monument to mystery, warning anyone who dares enter that not all treasures are meant to be found, and some paths are meant to remain untrodden. When it comes to conspiracies, Arizona has earned a reputation as a hotspot for strange phenomena, especially in the skies above and the deserts below. At the heart of many theories are claims of underground bases and unexplained UFO activity. From secret military installations to reports of alien craft, Arizona is said to be one of the most heavily surveillanced and mysterious states in the nation. Most famously, there are the Phoenix Lights. Thousands of residents reported a formation of enormous, silent lights hovering over the city in 1997. Witnesses described triangular and circular patterns moving slowly across the sky, seemingly defying the laws of physics. While some dismissed it as flares or experimental aircraft, others remained convinced they were observing something far more unusual. Craft that originated from or were being guided to underground facilities hidden deep in the desert. Stories of lights entering and exiting remote desert areas aren't new. Pilots and civilians alike have claimed to see metallic objects rising from the sands, then vanishing without a trace. Some even describe beams of light scanning the desert floor, as if searching for something, or someone. The desert, vast and sparsely populated, provides the perfect cover for such operations, or so the theory goes. The conspiracy gains further weight from Arizona's significant military presence. From Air Force bases to restricted testing zones, the deserts of the state are filled with areas that are off limits to civilians. This secrecy speeds speculation that some bases are not only testing advanced aircraft, but may also be collaborating with extraterrestrial entities. Whispers of underground tunnels, hidden hangars, and top-secret labs fuel the imagination for those who study these claims. Eyewitness accounts often describe craft with impossible flight patterns, hovering silently for long seconds, then accelerating out of sight at incredible speeds. Many connect these sightings with unusual radar activity, or temporary blackouts in communications and power grids, suggesting a deliberate attempt to keep the public unaware. Skeptics argue these are simply misidentified aircraft, drones, or natural phenomena. Yet, for believers, the repeated reports combined with government secrecy, tell a different story. Arizona's deserts, so vast and remote, are ideal for staging grounds for events that the public may never fully understand. Be it advanced military projects or something not of this world. Whether you think it's an elaborate cover-up or a glimpse into something extraterrestrial, the connection between the Phoenix Lights, strange craft activity, and states' restricted areas keeps Arizona high on the list of conspiracy enthusiasts. It's a land where the nature holds secrets, the sky hides mysteries, and the truth is always just out of reach, sometimes hovering silently above, just beyond our sight. As we leave the deserts, forests, and rugged mountains of Arizona behind, it's clear that this land is ancient, mysterious, and fiercely guarded. From the shadows of Mogollon Rim to the jagged peaks of the Superstitions, from strange lights flickering over the desert to stories whispered for generations, Arizona seems alive with secrets, some hidden, some impossible to explain. Have you ever felt the gaze of the forest, the pull of the mountains, or witnessed something that defies explanation in the desert? I want to hear from you. Share your experiences, your stories, and your encounters. You can submit your stories to hexes, haunts, and howls at gmail.com. Again, that's hexes, haunts, and howls, all one word, at gmail.com. All stories will remain anonymous, and every tale keeps the mystery alive for listeners around the world. Thank you for listening to Hexes, Haunts, and Howls. I'm your host, Cupcake. Until next time, stay sweet.